Okay, I'm just doing this video of St Andrews, which is a Scottish town on the east coast of the country, and it's basically an old, I guess, ancient town full of, nowadays, mostly students actually, because of the university. So this is just a quick round the old part of the town, and it's not a big place. Probably about 15,000 people live here, and this is as I said, the old part of the town where Prince William used to live actually when he was studying at university, and I think that's his flat roundabout here somewhere. So it's, as you can see, these buildings, I'm not really sure if they're limestone or some of the other ones are kind of granite, sort of, as I say, old style buildings, not like the tenement flats in, say, Glasgow, which is more Victorian. And this is the main, or one of the main streets in town. On the left is the Student Union, or St Andrews University, which obviously been pretty quiet for the last year with the pandemic. And this university has, I mean, it's obviously, like many universities, certain specialities. I guess Prince William studied the arts while he was there, medical school and other departments. It's pretty popular with overseas students actually. This is the central street in the town. As you can see, it's the old cobbled street, which is, and probably not exactly the same street as it was hundreds of years ago, but it's pretty similar actually if you look at old photographs. Nowadays it's full of like some chain shops, but also there are some kind of unique retail shops in the centre of this town. This is quiet, done early in the morning. Normally it's full of tourists because of the, well, I guess the attractions are golf, and there's a beach, and there's also some sort of camping, even caravan sites near. So it's popular with families to come for a summer holiday. Also, it's pretty good for restaurants and eating out, mainly due to, I think, the overseas students actually, and probably more recently the golfers spend a lot of money in this town, because if they want to go to another place to eat out, they might have to travel for another 20 minutes or half an hour, and I think they just prefer to hang around town, probably tired after a game of golf. So now we're stepping into the, I'm not sure if it's actually, probably is the older part of town. You get these little gardens that are, this is a private garden, but there's a few around town which are pretty cool actually, considering, say, the size of the place. You get a lot of good amenities, and a lot of these are student houses, although of course there are residential, people living here, like the owners and stuff like that. Obviously Airbnb, there's a lot of holiday rented flats, and once again flats used by the golfers, which are, as I say, usually a lot more expensive, but they seem to be pretty busy almost 12 months of the year. So this is, as I say, probably one of the real older parts of the town. You can see the architecture just a little bit different from the previous part, and we have these little alleyways cut through streets, which I'm on a bike here, but usually people just walk around from here. We'll go across to the College Court, which is one of the centres of the university, even the older part of the university. And now we're getting on to South Street, which basically it's just, there's three main streets. There's the North, South and Market Street in the middle. And we're going to cross to the College Square, I think it's called, which is it's kind of a classic environment, really. Once again, these old narrow streets. I don't know why they're so narrow, if they just weren't thinking about horse and carts overtaking each other. But this is once again the university buildings. I think it's one of the science buildings, I'm not really sure. As I say, they're all intermingled around the centre of town. And there's also a new development down here on the left here. You get these sort of brand new townhouses. No idea what they cost, probably not cheap. Get your own garage, and there's a small garden at the back. And they've done the most with the space they've got. And those, if above the wall, they face onto on either side university buildings. In fact, I think this is the new music school, which we're just going to look at now, which apparently is going to have a brand new massive organ installed, which I haven't heard, obviously, but that's the apartments we just went past a second ago. So yeah, once again, these are this is the science, one of the science buildings. In fact, I'm not very good at my history, but I believe Charles Darwin may have gone here, or his contemporaries were studying here for a bit. And they do have a lot of, I guess, as I say, famous students or professors that have been here. So it always has many historical references. So yeah, that's the new music school. And now we're now just gone up into the college court. And it's just nice to have these, the old buildings with sort of planted areas, and there's a green up here just at the top. Just a cool place, really, obviously you can walk through this as a member of the public. It's not private. Normally, as I say, during the term time, it would be flocked with students, probably sitting out here studying away. That looks like an older part of the building, which is falling apart. And this part is like the main, I don't know, grassy knoll or whatever, grassy square. With, statues to famous people that have probably studied here. And this massive tree, which I'm not sure if that's blocking all the light out of the classrooms. Yeah, various sort of reliefs on the building, and it's I've never actually been in these buildings. I haven't been a student here, probably was never good at school to get into this university, but anyway, here we go. And we come back out onto, as I say, it's South Street, and South Street once again is like a retail street with several shops, and you'll notice like there's many religious buildings, as I say, churches in this town. In fact, coming up here is at the end, and we'll pass it in a minute, is the old cathedral, which is kind of a strange building because it's so massive and it's now in ruin, and it doesn't quite make sense why it's so massive compared to the size of the town. But I've heard a couple of theories why that is, and I'll explain that in a second. But just to explain that we have another historical reference on the right here, and I discovered this recently. Somebody mentioned to me, I think it was my mother actually, mentioned to me that Mary Queen of Scots used to live here. And I looked it up online, and apparently she came here for short trips or whatever from Edinburgh. And this is now a private school. Probably shouldn't be going through here, but anyway. And Mary Queen of Scots lived in this house on the left, which is now a library, a reference library for the school. And I don't know all the details, but I get the impression that St Andrews was a place where people came to, have a break or go shopping or something, even, way back in the day. And it's kind of a place to escape the city life. So not much has changed really from the way the city works out today. But you can see once again, this is Well, now this is a school, but I guess back in the day, whether it was a private courtyard, and we're now getting into this is like a walled street. I don't quite understand. The cathedral's on the other side of the wall. I don't know why the wall is so kind of high and everything. Whether it was a security thing or no idea. But it does make for an interesting kind of street where you look like you're sort of going through. Yeah, it looks like you're actually driving through the middle of the cathedral. Okay, so now we're getting to the cathedral, which, as you can look, it's massive, isn't it? I mean, what is going on here? The theory I heard was that, which is probably true actually, that St Andrews was destined to be the capital of Scotland, and presumably they needed a cathedral, and there's a castle round the corner. I don't know, my history's terrible, but I get the impression that didn't work out, because Edinburgh just became the place where, I guess, politics and religion centred on. But nevertheless, St Andrews has got a lot of historical references. It's also a place where some of the reformers were burnt to death, and what I mean by reformers are people that wanted to, I guess, fight against the Catholic Church and establish what they thought was the true form of religion, which presumably was a form of the Protestant or protesters to the Catholic faith. Yeah, so now we're obviously down on the seaside, and this town has a harbour, like a traditional fishing harbour, like a lot of the villages along the east coast do. Fishing presumably was one of the main resources or maybe incomes for the townspeople. Nowadays there is still fishing, and it is a kind of it's a working harbour, and it's interesting to go there when you see the boats coming in with the fresh catch. I'm not going to go down there because I'm actually cycling, but you can see the funky pier which is protecting the harbour, and that's where the students go on their traditional walks. And I've forgotten the name of that tower actually. So now we're looking back along the coast to the sort of the main golf courses after the town. And we've still got the museum, the town museum's coming up, and we'll see a bit of the castle, which is, it's an ancient castle. Once again, it's in ruin. I think I've only been in it once, and I'm not even sure all the history associated with the castle. One of the problems in this town, and you don't see it too much at the moment, is the seagulls are everywhere, and they've become a little bit violent in the middle of the town, so they have been known to attack people, but I think they're probably attacking people that are walking along with fish and chips. And of course you need to be careful of seagull droppings, which are also massive and awful, and I have been hit by a few in the past. Not nice. So yeah, here are the seaside cottages, and the castle is kind of a classic skyline of the city. It's not like a massive castle, but I believe they've got dungeons in there for keeping the lovely prisoners. And it's also got a museum as well, so you can check out the history that I haven't checked out. And what I'm going to show you now is, as well as another church up that street, is the cobbled, so this is and it's it kind of, I'm not sure, it's position of one of the martyrs that was burnt to stake here, and I think it's George Wishart is his name, with the GW in the ground. Now, sorry to keep giving you royal references, but the cafe at the top used to be called, well, I don't know if they changed the name, but they had a massive sign saying this is where Kate met Will, and it was all a bit crazy. Obviously, just to pull in customers, so I don't think it impresses the locals at all, because they like it to be kind of anonymous, especially because there are quite a lot of celebrities come to this town, you know, to stay in hotels and play golf and kind of live it up a little bit. But that tradition hasn't quite died out, as we'll see. Yeah, so this person is where Kate tapped, where Will tapped Kate. I don't know what that's about, but presumably they think that they met on this street. Very nice. No idea. Okay, so now more university buildings on the street. This is the grounds of the castle with its museum, and this is called the Scores, which is another street in the town, which is, as I say, right next to all these kind of crazy buildings. Actually, that's the music school of the university. But as you'll see in a second, they've got huge houses overlooking the bay. Some of them are private, but also some of them are university buildings for psychology or whatever subjects they're doing. I think this one must be, looks like a private house. That looks like a university building there. So it's interesting to see what's happened. They might have been private and then bought out, but difficult to maintain these things. But you know, solid houses. And you'll see that as we go up here, there's cycle lanes in the town, because cycling is probably the easiest way for students to get around. And there's so many bicycles in the town, because you can cycle across town in 5 minutes, maybe 10 from extreme outskirts of the town. Okay, so now we're going into the old chapel court. I don't think that's the name of it, but it reminds me a little bit of, if you've seen the film Chariots of Fire, the guys have a sprint around the old chapel court, but I think that one is in Oxford or something like that. Once again, this is kind of a classic type of square with, if you go there you'll see a lot of detail in the gargoyles and I'm not sure I'm not sure what these buildings are at the moment. Obviously the chapel's there, and here we are on what's called North Street, and there's a cinema on the right there, which is a nice little cinema. I think they've got 2, possibly 3 screens in there, even for that size of cinema. Obviously frequented a lot by the students. And now all these buildings right here is, now we're getting down very near the golf courses and the shore. Most of these are hotels, guest houses and whatnot. And there are a few private houses, but it's mostly guest houses. So back down towards the Scores Road that we're on earlier. Now to our right, we can't see it quite yet, there's a Sea Life Museum and also a golf museum. And this monument here is, I believe this is a monument to the once again to the Reformists. So you can see the religious activity in this area has been pretty busy over the years. Now, that building on the right is the Royal and Ancient Golf House, or Golf Club, which is one of the most famous golf clubs in the world, I guess. And here we are, arguably at the most famous golf course in the world, which is called the Old Course. If you don't play golf, it doesn't mean anything to you. But this place becomes very busy when the golf tournament is on, which I believe in 2022 they're going to have I guess the Masters in the US, but here we call the Open, which is the biggest golf tournament. It might be one of the biggest golf tournaments in the world, but I think there's probably more money in the Masters. This is the 18th fairway and green, and the first tee and fairway on the other side. So basically this would have been a farm or a field back in the day, but of course now it's kind of a manicured fairway and greens, and it's not it's not an easy course to get on, and it's also a very difficult course to play. And all the buildings on the left that we just went past, they're all hotels and golf clubs. So we're going to cross this quickly before we get hit by a golf ball. The red building there is actually a previous student residence, which is now private apartments, and I have no idea what they cost, but probably an arm and a leg. So now we're going to this is the golf course on the left, but I believe there's 7 golf courses in the town, which is great if you're a golfer. And of course a lot of the other businesses make money from golfers coming there. And they've got this hotel. That thing there is actually the Old Course Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. I've been in it a few times. It doesn't look particularly beautiful, but it's got the facilities there for a lot of people that want to live it up and come here, wine and dine and play golf. And also just down in front of us is actually a putting green called the Himalayas, which is a fun little putting course to go on, not usually packed with tourists, but it's a great little course. I think it's more fun than a crazy golf course because you need skill to get around that course. And this is the new clubhouse. I've forgotten all the names of the courses. There's Old Course, New, Jubilee, Eden, I think Balgove, and there's 2 other ones. I think the other ones I can't remember the name of. But here we're down on the beach here, and they have protected a lot of the dunes with these fences because they were sort of being washed away or being eroded by people walking onto them. But it's kind of I guess it must be what do you call it? A protected wildlife area. Now we're crossing the golf course. It's pretty cool. We've got all the golf courses joined together, and once again, for golfers, it's amazing because you can just play golf all your life here, and some people do. And they've got these roads that go between the golf courses, and these are called links courses. If you didn't know, I'm not a massive golfer, but links courses tend to be like this terrain with sand, but a lot of sand bunkers. And I think it's about 7 miles to just go around all these golf courses.